here's your host, Jason Voorhees and Aaron Savage.
Ooh, yeah!
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very special edition of the Sports and Metal Podcast. We are back after about a 4-week hiatus. We're both excited to be here. As always, we are your hosts. This is Aaron Savage. Right over there, my partner in crime, Mr. Jason Voorhees. Oh, that way. What's going on, Jay? How are you?
What's going on, man?
Not much, man. Before we get started, I just want to give a shout out to our number one sponsor, La Terrain Watches. Make sure you visit their website, www.la-touraine.com. You're going to want to use our promo code S&M. That's the letters S&M as in sports and metal. And you're going to save 10% off your purchase at checkout. If you haven't checked out La Terrain, please do so. They are the best handcrafted watches in the marketplace at the best price point. You're not going to want to miss it. Use our promo code. Tell them Sports and Metal sent you. Anyway, before we get started with some of the more, fun banter that we're going to get into, we're going to start on a little more of a somber note. This past week, we lost, in my opinion, a legend, Alec John Such, a longtime bass player of Bon Jovi. Me being a Jersey guy, Bon Jovi meant the world to me. Jay just put up a picture. That's actually me at Alec John Such's house at the 2008 Super Bowl. He had a party at his house. The legendary 17-0 Patriots took the fall to the Giants. Eli got his first ring. I'm not a Giants fan, but it was, pretty exciting to be there. So there's a little picture of me hanging out with Alec. He lived in Freehold, New Jersey for a while where I live. But I mean, Alec is a New Jersey legend. He was a longtime booker at the Hunka Bunka Club, which, if you're from New Jersey, you know it in Sayreville. It's now called Starland Ballroom. They still host tons of shows. I've seen Steel Panther there. Jay's seen Anthrax with me there. I've seen Velvet Revolver there a couple times. I mean, I'm always at Starland. But back in the day, it was Hunka Bunka. Later, it was like a teen dance club. But in the early 80s, they played rock and roll. And Alec was largely responsible for putting John Bon Jovi's band together that would become Bon Jovi because, I believe it was Tico Torres met John through Alec. I believe so. Maybe Richie too. Then David Bryan joined the band. I think he was a childhood friend of John in high school. I might be a little bit off on the details there, but Alec John Such played a key role in bringing those guys together. And the rest is history, dude. I mean, Bon Jovi is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, like him or not. If you're one of these, metal, Bon Jovi's, corny, whatever. You can't deny their impact. And I love Bon Jovi. I'm more of a glam pop metal guy, a Jersey rock and roll type guy. And that's the sound that I dig, that Jersey boardwalk rock and roll sound. I think of the In and Out of Love video, Bon Jovi on the boardwalk in Seaside. All the sights in that video. I grew up hanging out on those spots. So rest in peace, Alec John Such. It's a tough loss. He's been out of the band, going on 20 years. But his mark is never going to be forgotten of what he meant to that band.
Yeah, I mean, Alec was an amazing bass player, but obviously he brought a lot more to Bon Jovi than just playing the bass. He was responsible for writing a lot of the music. He obviously was one of the, obviously founding members of the band. And obviously that means a lot. And to me, I'm more of like the heavy type guy, when it comes to my styles of music. I'm more of the thrash guy. But I got to be honest with you. When I think of Bon Jovi and what they meant to me as a music fan, I have to say, like, Slippery When Wet and New Jersey, those two records, which are arguably, obviously, you could argue either one is their best record, but they're both two of the best records that the band has ever produced.
In my opinion, two of the greatest albums of all time.
Well, and that's what I'm getting at. They're actually two of my favorite records. Like, and I'm not like a huge Bon Jovi fan per se, but those two records, I don't have on either record. If you take every single track from both records, I don't think there's one bad song on the whole, on both records. Like,
I agree.
And even the material that they didn't release, songs that didn't fall on both of those records that they released later in life. Like, I mean, honestly, I got to say, like, you're right. I mean, he is a legend. I know he doesn't get the same pub that John Bon Jovi gets, and obviously, Richie Sambora probably gets a little bit more publicity, but sometimes it's the guys that are more quiet that when you look back at their careers, as musicians, they're definitely underrated, and he's definitely going to be missed. I mean,
well, let's not forget it's John's band. I mean, for all intents and purposes, Bon Jovi is a solo act. I mean, it came out in that documentary I saw a few years ago. Basically, John said the whole band's paid employees, but and I don't know that Alec actually had a lot of writing credits. I know you had said that. I don't think he did, but it's not about that. It's about what he brought to the table. In other words, John Bon Jovi was a struggling solo artist, and they found the perfect backing band to make him a superstar, and the band became superstars. And it's like the original Appetite for Destruction Guns N' Roses lineup. There was a magic to that. There was a magic to that Bon Jovi lineup with Richie Sambora, John Bon Jovi, Alec John Such, David Bryan, and Tico Torres. That was the magic. Hugh McDonald actually played bass on the original recording of Runaway. Alec ended up replacing him. There was always the rumors that Hugh McDonald was secretly playing the bass tracks on all those records. It's been denied. Whatever. It's not the point. I don't believe it to be true. The fact of the matter is, Alec John Such was one of the faces of the golden era of Bon Jovi, and I hung out with him. He was a great guy. He will be sorely missed. And like I said, he also is directly responsible for bringing these guys together. And that means a whole lot when you're talking about a band as big as Bon Jovi. I mean, you talk about Bon Jovi and maybe Def Leppard as far as bands that had like the hair metal moniker attached to them that came out of the 80s and arguably not only maintained their popularity, but maybe even were bigger coming out. How many bands are still around standing with that kind of popularity? Motley Crue couldn't even say that. Motley Crue we'd always talk about the Motley Crue 94 record. I think it's their greatest record, but it flopped. Nobody bought it because it was 1994. That music wasn't in. Vince wasn't in the band. Bon Jovi transcended that. Some of their biggest hits were in the 90s. I will love you, baby, always. It's my life. It's now. They were rocking, bro, into the 90s. And a lot to be said for that. Obviously, Alec was out of the band by the time It's My Life came out, but you get my point. The band transcended. Anyway, moving on. The new Def Leppard album dropped, a couple weeks back. I know we were talking a lot about it, and I want to know, what do you think of the new Def Leppard record, Jay?
I mean, honestly, when I first heard it, I don't want to say I didn't like it. I actually liked it, but I didn't dig it, if that makes sense.
Okay. By the way, the album's called Diamond Star Halos. I should have said that. Yeah, go on.
The more I listen to it, like each day, because that's what I do when I get a new record, I kind of play it out. The more I play it, the more it's growing on me as a record. I think, obviously, you see a lot of 70s influence. Pretty much the whole record's like based on like 70s.
It's all music. Like T-Rex, 70s glam.
So if you're a Def Leppard fan that was expecting them to go back to their heyday, you're not as close as you're going to get is the first track that you actually shared on one of our previous shows. Like it didn't sound like Hysteria type.
Take
level,
what you want. The rocker on the record.
It's probably as close to like classic Def Leppard that you're going to get. But if you're a fan of music, it's absolutely a phenomenal record. I got to be honest with you. In my opinion, the last track is the best track on the record. I love it. I'm obsessed with it, actually.
You're talking about from here to eternity.
Exactly. Because I honestly, it gives me an Aerosmith. As soon as I heard it, I thought Aerosmith right away. Like, I don't know what made me think that, but it was just the vibe that I got. Like, it kind of reminded me of like Dream On, or, I'm trying to think back of maybe some of their other songs that were.
I thought it reminded me a little bit of Kings and Queens.
That's what I was going to say.
Like when you mentioned that you thought you had an Aerosmith vibe, I wouldn't have caught that if you didn't say it. But once you said it, I kind of had Kings and Queens on the mind. I could see it. But yeah, I could see that for that song. I'm not going to lie, dude. I'm disappointed in the record. I haven't told you that because I was saving it for when we talked about it on the show. I'm very disappointed with this album.
And I know.
What's that?
I know why, because and it's somewhat like me. I was expecting when you heard the first track that you dropped, it's like, oh my God, like they're gonna
Well,
go
no,
back
they
to
had
the
Kick and Fire It Up out before, I believe, Take What You Want. I think Take What You Want was the third single, but still, it gave you hope. I don't love Kick. It's kind of a cheesy song. It's like they're trying to go for that Pour Some Sugar on Me all the time. They're trying to come up with this hit, and they're trying too hard. It doesn't have the magic anymore. When you're trying to do it, the magic is lost. Pour Some Sugar on Me became a monster hit because it was something they just threw together at the 11th hour to get another album track on there because the record company wanted a single or another track, and it was just magic. Though, but like now you're trying to do it and you're just not doing it. And it's like kind of a cheesy song. So I don't like Fire It Up. But even having heard those two songs, when I heard Take What You Want, like you said, it's the bold rocker. I had hope, but there's nothing else on the record that's remotely close to it, man. There's not. I mean, there's some country sounding tracks. With what is her name? Alison Krauss. I don't know, dude. Joe's voice, he's just singing all in kind of like a baritone. There's no more of that falsetto. I miss it, man. Even the 2015 Def Leppard self-titled record, it had a lot of experimental stuff. A lot of Queen influence, like Are You Man Enough? Remember that one?
Yeah,
But
but
it
it
still
harkened
had
back
some
to their
Def
glory
Leppard
days.
rockers with the falsetto vocals.
It harkened back to their glory days. That
On some tracks, it did. And honestly, the first track on that record, I think it was called Let's Go. I'm going to pull it up. That actually was the closest thing to me that they've done to a Def Leppard. I'm not Def Leppard, to a Pour Some Sugar on Me imitation. I think it was Let's Go, right? What was that name of the track?
It was
on the
Let's
self-titled?
Go, if I'm not mistaken.
What's that?
I think you're right. Let's Go.
Yeah, I want to pull it up. It's driving me nuts.
You can't remember it.
The self-titled record. Hold on. Here we go. Yeah.
Aaron's having it
Yeah,
all.
Let's Go. Let's Go. Do you mind if I play it on here for a second? Tell me this doesn't sound like Pour Some Sugar on Me. This is from the 2015 self-titled record.
Oh, yeah. I mean, right away you can hear it.
See, there they actually captured it.
I agree with you, man. It's not a Def Leppard album.
Yeah, so I mean, after the 2015 record came out, it had some tracks like that, and that's not even like glory days of Def Leppard to me. Like, I'm waiting to hear some High and Dry. I know we're not going to get that. It's unrealistic. The guys are in their 60s. Joe doesn't have the vocals to do it anymore, But,
yeah, and not that Vivian's a bad guitarist, but I think Steve Clark gets lost in the shuffle.
His contribution.
Exactly, because I mean, his guitar signature and tone had its own, like, you knew right away. Like,
well, I agree 100%. Yeah.
Not that you don't know Vivian, because Vivian has his own distinct. Like, they both had different parts.
Yeah, but you know what? Steve Clark brought something to Def Leppard, that low slung Johnny Thunder's sloppy guitar playing. He brought that rawness to Def Leppard, and it's been missing since he passed.
It really
has.
I agree, because my personal favorite album from Def Leppard is High and Dry. I actually love Pyromania too.
I do too, but I mean,
listen, I know
Hysteria I love.
Masterpiece, but I'm just saying, in my opinion, that's what, if I want to listen to Def Leppard in my car, I go back to High and Dry.
Oh, like, me too.
Another hit and run, I can crank that to 10 every time I'm in my car. Another hit and run. That actually was my favorite.
Bro, I'm not gonna lie. I to this day, it's tough for me to come up with any 1-2 punch to start a record that tops Let It Go and Another Hit and Run from High and Dry. Those two tracks, if I was Def Leppard, I would open every concert with those two tracks. That's how I would open every show, just to get the crowd fired up. And then after those two songs, they'd be so exhausted, then you could come in and drop a ballad like Animal or something. That's what I mean, dude, those songs kick ass, bro. High and Dry is balls to the wall from beginning to end. But when you talk about a 1-2 punch to start a record, it's tough to fucking top let it go and another hit and run from high and dry.
I think that's
and now that I
probably
said it, if you're watching this episode or listening at home, go in your car, put on high and dry, and listen to those two tracks and see if you don't start going 85 miles an hour.
I mean, I agree. I think that's probably why it is my favorite Def Leppard, album.
Yeah, absolutely, brother. Anyway, we haven't been on in a few weeks. Last time we were on, the Phillies were. You're a Phillies fan. You got your Phillies jersey on, brother. I'm a Mets fan. So this is something we're going to bring to the table here. Now, I think we both agreed it was time for Joe Girardi to be fired. The Phillies were just wallowing in mediocrity, not even in patheticness. I'm not a big fan of their lineup. I've said it from day one. I've been saying it since the preseason. I think their lineup, in my opinion, is just too unathletic, too strikeout prone. It's not a lineup I'd want to see my team put together. That being said, you can't argue the fact that the Phillies having fired Joe Girardi in last week has reinvigorated that team, bro. 7 straight wins. What do you got to say, Jay?
Well,
the Phillies were dead and buried last time we were talking.
First and foremost, I thought they were dead and buried. And if Girardi was still there, I believe they would be. I don't believe they win maybe 3 of those 7 games. But it's not even the outcomes of the games that is really showing me the depths of how inept Joe Girardi was. It's the energy level that the players are giving day in and day out. Even if they were losing, I would be still saying, wow, there is such a difference in the manager styles. And I kind of look at this as like Rob Thompson, like he managed under Joe Girardi for a long time. I mean, he was Joe Girardi's bench coach with the Yankees. So he knows the ins and outs of Joe Girardi, and he knows, I always say this, I manage a supermarket, right? So I've been in both positions. I've been a store manager, but for most of my career, I was an assistant manager. And when you're an assistant, one benefit you get to managing under somebody is you get to learn from their mistakes. And you see the things that they do, not necessarily right, because let's face it, a lot of times doing the right things just comes with experience and making mistakes. But you get to see those mistakes from somebody else. And you can kind of look at the way that you manage and your style management and kind of go off of those mistakes to the point where you almost like, I don't want to say like you're flipping the script, but in a sense you are. So I'll give you an example. The first thing that Joe Girardi did with the Phillies, and I know you and I have disagreed about it, but probably per se that's a disagreement. I don't think you would disagree in a sense that why it's screwing the Phillies up. When you have a lineup that you and I both agree, I'm a Phillies fan, but I agree with you that the Phillies lineup is flawed because it's basically a bunch of streaky hitters that go on major streaks, whether it's good or bad. When they're going good, it's great. When they're going bad, it's in the toilet. But when you have that, I don't think changing the lineup every 2 days is helping the situation. I actually think it's making it worse. Because players, you got to look at the way that a player thinks and in their mind, and guys are in certain roles. So, for example, if you are the leadoff hitter, whether or not you're a good leadoff hitter or not, if you're in the leadoff hitting spot, you have one job to do: get on base, as much as possible, and try to score a run. Correct? Well, so I don't think Kyle Schwarber is necessarily he's not a typical lead. We know that. He's not. He's a guy that you and I both think isn't that good of a hitter. But if he's going to be the leadoff hitter, then keep him there. And you're seeing that come to fruition right now with Rob Thompson. Since Schwarber's been back in the leadoff spot, he's been on an absolute tear. Now, yes, he does this a lot in June. But I don't think it's a coincidence that you finally keep him in one position instead of putting him first and then the next day having him 7th and then having him 5th. Like, I just don't think that's good for somebody's confidence. So I think, Rob Thompson has instilled his confidence in his players, and his players know that he believes in them because of that. Secondly, his use of the bullpen. Well, you and I both agree that around the league, it's an absolute epidemic the way bullpens are used. We agree with that. But I'd like to see some consistency. Well, now you're seeing it. So Joe Girardi, for example, would have put a closer in a game where it was a 5-run game, even though most people would say, well, why are you going to use your closer? Joe Girardi would go all with analytics because in his mind, okay, well, this guy does well against this guy, so that's who I'm using. And he would do this regardless. I spent countless days watching Phillies games where this would be Joe Girardi the whole game. Basically, in his book, he didn't interact with anybody. He didn't talk to anybody. They interviewed Nick Castellanos last week. He said he talked to Joe Girardi 2 times since he's been here.
I didn't know that. I didn't hear that. Yeah.
This is what I'm saying, though. When you're hearing this stuff come out now, it's absolutely – we understand now why the Phillies were so messed up. It's not – and listen, I'm not saying that the Phillies are, going to catch the Mets because I don't think they will. I think the Mets probably will still win the division. But what I am happy about is that this team actually is playing up to their capabilities. And, if this can continue, I definitely think the Phillies have a shot at the playoffs, especially with the 3rd wild card. So that's, yes, where I'm at is I'm very happy. I'm not ready to buy all in and say that, yes, the Phillies are, a World Series team because they're not. I still think the Phillies are probably missing a little bit in the starting pitching. Now, Aaron Nola and Zach Wheeler, they've been both tip top. Zach Wheeler is pitching right now the way he was last year during, his best stretch. Aaron Nola is pitching probably better than he has. If you want to look at, and it's not just the numbers, I'm talking about the eye test. Because with Aaron Nola, with me, when he gets in trouble, it's when he's not locating his fastball and he's not locating his pitches. Right now, he's absolutely in command of his fastball. And it shows with the numbers. He's definitely tracking to have probably his best year since his Cy Young year. And if that happens, then you got 2 guys that are capable of being aces. Let's just say that. Still not sold on the Phillies rotation minus those 2 guys, though.
All right, well, I'll tell you my thoughts on the managerial change. I think some of it might be overstating, Joe Girardi's influence on the team as far as they suddenly won 7 straight, and it's all because of Girardi, because of everything he did. I don't know if that's it. But I do think the managerial change sparked the win streak. But it sometimes it's just the change. It's not so much the change of approach. It's not so much because, Joe Girardi was buried in his book with analytics. It's because the team was just struggling, and it's like a shot in the ass. You change managers, and it's like everybody gets, we just lost our manager. We got him fired. We're not playing. We don't know. We're not in the clubhouse. But when you do this, sometimes it's just a spark. I think sometimes just the change itself. I think there's a long way to go. I think Rob Thompson, I told you off the air, I think he's got potential to be a good major league manager. I like a guy has a track record, that's young, and I think he's got potential. He's been on winning organizations with the Yankees. That being said, there's time will tell, but I do think that one thing we can agree on, the managerial change sparked this win streak. No question about it. There's no doubt in my mind. And the other thing that's being understated is how effective the Phillies starting pitching has been. Just in the last week, you had 8 shutout innings from Nola. You had a 6-inning 2-run game from Wheeler. You had a 7-inning 2-run game from Ranger Suarez. The Phillies are pitching. That you're going to win games if you're pitching. And that's going to bring me to my biggest pet peeve with the Philadelphia Phillies fan base. Dude, Aaron Nola. If Aaron Nola was on the Mets with the same numbers he's had for his career, he would be like a beloved Met. And everybody'd be like, we got to extend him for 6 years. Just like how we were pissed when we lost Zach Wheeler. I don't understand. Bro, right now, as we speak, Aaron Nola has a .88 whip, which is 3rd in the Major League Baseball. Aaron Nola is a few years removed from a 17-win season with an ERA under 3. He has 1 season with an ERA over 4 since his second big league season. 1. And that was the year after the 60-game 2020 season, which clearly messed everybody up. So in 2021, Nola had like a 4.63 year on run average. That's his first ERA over 4 since his second full big league season. And it was coming off a shortened season. The guy's got a track record. He's an innings eater. He pitches deep into games. And his winning percentage should be better if not for some lack of run support. What are you guys every time I tune into you on a podcast or a Phillies radio station, I'm hearing Phillies fans want to run this guy out of town. I'm a Mets fan. Send him my way. We will lock him up. We will love to have him. And while you're at it, give us Wheeler back too. Because I'll tell you one thing. If the Phillies are going to contend, it's going to be because of two guys. And neither one of them is named Bryce Harper, bro. It's going to be Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola. Those are the guys that are going to keep you in a pennant race. And those are the guys, if you get into the postseason, that are going to win you postseason games. And that's no diss to Bryce Harper, who's a superstar, one of the best players in baseball. It's just a matter of fact that when you have a 1-2 punch like Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola, you can compete with anybody in a short series. Facts. That's why you could have a Bryce Harper on a last place team or a first place team, because pitching is what wins in Major League Baseball, Jay. Facts. We got Jason's sister Rachel checking in here. Phillies needed a change. It was a spark that they needed. I agree, Rach. And I'm glad to see you watching the show. Thanks for checking in. Oh, and there's my mom. Hey, Ma. It's a family affair tonight. Live at 5, Sports and Metal. Anyway, Jay, but one thing we agree on is it sparked the win streak. No question.
Well, and just to piggyback off your points, I'm not necessarily one of those guys that's in the camp to run Nola out of town. I think, if anything, you saw me on a podcast just a year ago arguing for Aaron Nola's side of the argument.
I know, but then you kind of got soft on your argument.
Okay, and here's where I'm at with Aaron Nola. I'm not ready to say that he is an ace. Because he shows me flashes like he's showing me right now. Now, you're right. Last year was the first time he had a sub-4 ERA. I agree.
Well, above 4 ERA.
He had a bad year. So maybe we can.
And it wasn't awful. It wasn't awful, Jay. Some of those, his ERA was bloated by a few bad starts.
And I get that. And that's part of the problem. I think sometimes when it comes to starting pitchers, you can have that happen where you had 3 games where you gave up 8 runs or something.
Yeah. And it just skews everything.
I get it. It's skewed. But my thing with Aaron Nola that it gets me frustrated is that I could see him pitch like he is right now as one of the top pitchers in the league. But then he'll go into September, and it's every single September besides the Cy Young season, besides the year that he almost won the Cy Young, he takes a dip.
That's tough to say, Jay.
Look at it.
I'm going to disagree. I'm going to disagree. He's only 29 years old, Jay. It's unfair. Hear me out.
I call it inconsistent, Aaron.
No, but you got to let me rebut that. He's 29 years old. He hasn't even been in the league long enough to make such a declaration, because he did have the 17-win season where he was a stud in September. 2020 was a 60-game season. So there's 2 seasons.
Well, what about 18 and 19?
You wipe it out. And then last
18
year,
and 19.
What?
You can't just. But what about 18 and 19? You can't just ignore them.
No. But here, let me finish. Okay, he had the 17-win season. He had a studly September. He had the 2020 season. He was actually good in September. It was a 60-game season. I don't remember him bombing in September in 2020. His numbers overall were pretty good. 2021, rough September. Again, I go back. It was coming off a 60-game season. Guys got tired, bro. They hadn't pitched that long. You know, he was really good most of last year. And again, his numbers were skewed by a few bad starts. You want to say he had a bad September? So be it. He was tired. It happens. Then, okay, so 2018, maybe he had a bad September. My point is he's 29 years old. That's not a long enough track record to just say this guy stinks in September. It's like it would be like Mets fans holding Edwin Diaz to his 2018 season it was, I guess. He's been pretty great since. Or so many examples. Like, you get to a certain point where a guy just does something constantly, and that's who he is. There's no reason to say that that's who Aaron Nola is, because he hasn't been that guy. He's had a couple bad Septembers. He's had a couple great Septembers. We got Jay's other podcast here, Trending in the AM, checking in. Thank you, Phil. But you know what I'm saying? Phil, I got distracted. I said Phil. Aaron Nola has had good Septembers and he's had bad Septembers. He's 29 years old. Here's another point that you guys have failed to acknowledge. In Major League Baseball, or in baseball in general, it's not like the NFL. In the NFL, when you're 22, 23, 24, that's your prime, right? Especially if you're a running back, because running backs are like thoroughbred horses. You run them until then you take them out the pasture and shoot them. You wear them out, they're done. Major League Baseball, there's guys that toil in the minor leagues sometimes, and they're late bloomers. They don't even make it to the show until they're 25, 26, and in some cases later. So just because you have a guy like an Aaron Nola that had early career success doesn't take away he's 29 years old, and his best years could be ahead of him. This isn't the NFL. In Major League Baseball, let's take Jamie Moyer. Jamie Moyer, borderline Hall of Famer. You look at the first 5 to 7, 8 years of his career, and you would have never expected him to have the career he put together, because Major League Baseball is a marathon. Season-wise, it's a marathon. Career-wise, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. I'm just saying, Jay, I will take Aaron Nola on the Mets every day and twice on Sunday, and I have no reason to believe that he doesn't have success lined up in his career moving forward. There's no way that guy's a mediocre pitcher. And not to mention, look where he's pitching, dude, in Citizens Bank Park.
I think
throw him in Citi Field, bro.
If you want my honest assessment, I think a lot of Phillies fans, myself included, are impatient.
I think impatience is the word.
We want instant gratification. We want the guy to be good all the time when we see it.
I knew you were going to say that. Name some of the greatest pitchers in the history of the sport, and they've had bad years.
Listen, I'm not arguing with you.
Yeah, there's a guy that can have an off year. And Roger Clemens, dude, his last year in Boston was like a 12-win season with like a 4.7 ERA. Everybody was like, "Oh, he's done." Now, granted, he
listen.
juiced.
If Aaron Nola comes out now
after
and has a season like he did, his Cy Young season, then I think people will start questioning why they were being so hard on the guy.
They should already be doing that. Everybody owes him an apology. Let me ask you this: if Aaron Nola is a perennial 14 to 16 game winner with like an average 3.7 ERA, 3.6 ERA, what's wrong with that? That's a great major league career, especially in today's game, with the offensive numbers being what they are. And then we throw this word ace around. That is the most overused word in sports outside of maybe generational talent. Generational talent means once in a generation. So when we're every year calling multiple guys generational talents, we've completely lost sight of what we are talking about. Tom Brady is a generational talent. Who else is? It's tough to say because the whole point is it's a generational talent. There might be a lot of great players, but are they generational talents? We don't know. Jerry Rice, generational talent. It's got to end there or it doesn't mean anything. So when we're throwing the word ace around, how do you define an ace? An ace could be the ace of your staff on your team. In an era where guys are averaging 6 innings per start, what is an ace? Where's the Tom Seavers of today? Where are the Steve Carltons? They're few and far between. So unless you want to talk about a Max Scherzer, a Jacob deGrom, how can I forget? Clayton Kershaw. I mean, there's a handful of, Justin Verlander.
Zach Wheeler.
You take these 4 or 5 guys, that's a whole other tier. Then everybody else, I mean, what is an ace? What kind of pressure are you putting on a guy? You can't blame the pitchers that managers don't let them pitch deep into games anymore. Because that's another great point. How are numbers skewed when guys are constantly on these pitch counts? They could be skewed both ways. One guy could have like a ridiculously low earned run average on a given year because he happens to get pulled out of games constantly after 5 2/3 shutout innings. Whereas in the past, the guy would have pitched deeper into the game until he tired and maybe gave up 2-3 runs, but gone 8 1/3, right?
You're spot on.
Tired. Now guys have a 0 ERA because they're coming out after 5 2/3 shutout innings. So the numbers are so skewed, and that could work the other way too. You could have a guy, has a rough first inning, gives up 4 runs in the first, then settles down and retires at 1.17 in a row, has a pitch count of 95, and they take him out of the game. And he's got what? He pitched 6 innings. He gave up 4 runs. What's his ERA? 6? He might have gone 9 innings in the old days if he settled down like that and had a 4 ERA and then built on that as the next start. So the numbers are skewed. It's like you said, you got to use the eye test. You know what you're watching when a guy's a good pitcher. You nailed it when you said that.
Well, and you nailed what you said. What is an ace? And you know, your example with the generational talent, spot on. Like, that's exactly correct. I think our ideas of what that actually is skewed because
everyone's throwing these words around.
Exactly. I agree with you. I do.
Throwing them around. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, hopefully the Mets can maintain for my sake. We do have the cavalry coming. I saw Tyler McGill's back. He's pitching tonight. Hopefully we get Scherzer and DeGrom back soon. And who knows, Jay, we might be in for a little roller coaster ride of a pennant race. It would be good for us. I mean, I as a Mets fan, I want to run away with it. But I know if it was close at the end, it would be fun.
It is more fun, obviously.
Yeah. No question. No question. Anyway, let's just keep on the sports for a minute. Deshaun Watson. All I got to say about this, Jay, look, I'm not on. I know you post more than me, you know, with the, like, oh, he should be this, he should be that, he did this. I'm not even going there. I do think there's enough smoke here to say that there's fire. You'd be stupid to think he didn't do wrong. You'd be an idiot. My whole point is this. I'm not here to debate the merits of what he did or didn't do. What I am here to debate is when there's this much smoke, how did Major League Baseball suspend Trevor Bauer for 2 years and they're still deciding what they want to do with Deshaun Watson in the NFL? That's all I'm here to talk about. How? Because here's my point. We both think that Trevor Bauer did some stupid shit, like crazy shit that's disgusting. And he says it was consensual, which it may have been. It almost seems more likely that it was than anything that Deshaun Watson did being consensual. And he still got suspended for 2 years, even though in a court of law he was found innocent. How has Deshaun Watson not been suspended? And more questionable to me, what are the Cleveland Browns thinking getting in bed with this guy for that kind of money? Are they out of their minds?
Well, yeah. But what's even more crazy to me is, and I said this, we talked about this on Trending yesterday, the comments that some of these people are saying as far as like, well, haven't you got a happy ending before? As if like that's all this is. Like, it's like totally degrading to women, honestly. And that's what's frustrating to me. It's like, it's a slap in the face to women when you make this issue like basically a non-issue. And Cleveland, for trading for him, like you said, it's just stupidity to actually even bring on a guy like this that could possibly be suspended. And now all of a sudden they're backtracking. Like, you know, well, what if we have to, you know, what if he's suspended? Can we get rid? Like, no, you guys gave up your picks. That was your dumb.
And I didn't even hear them backtracking. I missed that. But dude, you make a valid point. But here's what I'm saying is you brought up the happy ending thing, but that would be consensual, right? This is something where he's soliciting women for massages, and then once the massage starts, he's doing things that are borderline rape, right?
Inappropriate, yes.
He's doing inappropriate things. It's like he's not laying there being the receiver of something that someone's consensually doing to him. He's saying, oh, I want you to do this. I don't want to get graphic on here. I want you to do that. Can you do? And then like forcing himself upon people.
Yeah, using his standing as a player. Like, you think women...
I don't want to get into too much detail on here about what he's doing, but you get what I'm saying.
Exactly.
Yeah. And if there's this many people and there's evidence of it from posts, how has the NFL not suspended him?
It's disgusting.
I'm not even sure what bothers me more, that he hasn't been suspended or that the Browns actually made this trade and threw this money at him.
Well,
like, what?
And then what about this? Because I'll say it again. Calvin Ridley absolutely deserved to be suspended. He bet on the game, bet on his sport. But he was suspended a year. I think Deshaun Watson should be minimum 2 years. If you're going to set a precedence and you set the precedence for a $1,500 gambling to a year suspension, when I've seen guys that beat their wives get 4 weeks. I mean, that to me, that's horrible.
Yeah.
But what Deshaun Watson has done here is disgusting. And
the thing with Deshaun Watson, it's almost like not a serial killer, but it's got that kind of vibe to it. It's like a serial predator, predator. It seems like worse than everything we're describing here. See, that's the thing. Even with some of the domestic stuff, I don't come down as hard as you. It's not that I condone it, but it's like I just feel like when it's like a husband or a wife and a boyfriend or girlfriend, we don't know the full story. We don't know what went down. I'm not here to pass judgment or play God. That's not what I'm here to do. But when there's somebody committing crimes premeditated, that's a different thing. There's a difference between a crime of passion, I guess is what I'm trying to say, and something that's premeditated. It doesn't mean that one is okay and one isn't. It just means like we don't know full stories sometimes. I think it's unfair when we come down on a player for something that happened between him and his wife, when we have no idea what they're going through, what they did to each other, and especially when they work it out themselves and they're happily married and they move on. I'm not here to pass judgment on that. That's where I differ sometimes with you. We've talked about that. But there are obviously exceptions to that. Like when somebody is a wife beater and it's been proven and their wife leaves him and so there's all this evidence that they did something. Yeah, I get it. I'm just saying, and sometimes I don't want to pass judgment until we know the full story. But again, with Deshaun Watson, you're talking about a premeditated criminal in a sense. It's a serial predator looking to commit crimes. Look, and that's why that's where I say, how has a suspension not been handed down?
Well, how you're right. And I think using the Trevor Bauer example is the
Yeah.
perfect example because that's another sport. Another sport suspended some that, and that goes back to you and I have had numerous times where we debated, or discussed, or agreed, or disagreed on the NFL's, let's call it, lack of consistency when it comes to punishment.
Yeah.
And this is just another example of that, of how it's totally like ridiculous.
Yeah, and using the Bauer example, like I said, I personally think Bauer's a weirdo, a freak, and he does some stupid, disgusting stuff that I would want to never partake in. Again, I don't want to get into detail. If you know the story, you know it. But having been found innocent in a court of law, and again, we don't know the full story, she might have asked him to do that stuff. It may have been consensual. I'm not here to pass judgment. I personally think he did it. I don't like the guy, but I'm not here to say he should be suspended. He shouldn't be. But the fact is, MLB did suspend him for 2 years. And I'm simply saying, if MLB suspended him for 2 years with such little evidence of it not being consensual, and Deshaun Watson has not been suspended when there are 25 women saying that he did this stuff, and there's evidence online of it, and this and that. And now you're finding out that the Texans had him sign a non-disclosure agreement. So we know that this stuff was going on. How has he not been suspended? That's what I'm saying.
Layers to this where you're frustrated.
It's crazy.
You're frustrated at the NFL for being, not good with discipline. You're frustrated with the Texans who enabled this predator. Like they basically allowed this. And now you're frustrated with the Cleveland Browns for being an absolute ridiculous franchise and trading all these picks to get this guy when they pretty much already know that, what he's done. So I don't know, man. I just think it proves that, winning to these and money is more important to these guys than actually protecting people or protecting either their civil rights or their rights, period. Because
the Cleveland Browns might be paying for this decision for a long time. Time will tell. I'll leave it with that. The Cleveland Browns might be regretting this for quite a while. We shall see. We shall see. Anyway, bro, let's move on to something a little more positive. The picks of the week, man. I'm super pumped this week.
I know.
You want me to go first or you going first?
You.
All right, I'll go first. I'm super pumped this week for my pick. I didn't even realize Ugly Kid Joe was working on a new record until yesterday when I saw on my Facebook news feed that they released a new video just yesterday. The track's called That Ain't Livin'. There's a video for it on YouTube, which Jay's going to put up here in a couple seconds. We'll watch a little bit of it. And they have an album coming out in October called Rad Wings of Destiny. What a cool album title. Send up to Judas Priest. And also a send up to Ugly Kid Joe themselves with their spoof on album titles like Motel California. Now we got Rad Wings of Destiny. Super pumped. Ugly Kid Joe's always been one of my favorite bands. And I'm super pumped. Jay, put it up. The track is called That Ain't Livin' from Ugly Kid Joe's upcoming Rad Wings of Destiny.
What you trying to prove? When you're coming home to your tragedy, ain't all you ever wanted was someone like me. 'Cause that ain't living. Oh, 'cause that ain't living. Oh, 'cause that ain't living. Now you're getting old. And you're getting gray.
Am I back?
We're back.
All right, cool. Yeah, so dude, I mean, it totally sounds like Bon Scott era AC/DC. That ain't living. Ugly Kid Joe kicks ass. Check it out right now. You can check the video out on YouTube. There's my pick of the week.
Dude, that's friggin' awesome. I love Ugly Kid Joe. I know on one of our very first episodes of Sports and Metal, I actually did their America's Least Wanted as my pick of the week.
Yep.
They're definitely underrated, and they're just like a metal band that just kind of. I mean, obviously, back in the day, they were big, they were huge. But in today's world, like they're almost like I don't know how to describe them. They're not or ever talked about. Like it's almost like they're. I don't want to say they're one of those.
Well, they're always touring in Europe. They're always in Europe touring. Yeah.
Yeah, but they
Doing a
are
lot of
phenomenal,
festivals.
and I definitely got an AC/DC vibe from that.
Oh, totally. Bon Scott, man. Anyway, what do you got for us, Jay?
Well, my pick of the week, once again, I change it up. I'm generally going with what I know and being comfortable, but I'm going to go out of my comfort zone here. And this is a band that I actually just discovered, even though they've been around forever. Their lead singer is like 70 years old. But you wouldn't know it by the way he sings. He's got a phenomenal voice. And they're kind of one of those, like, I guess I would call them a niche band. So the band is Rammstein. I don't know how to say it properly. It's their brand new record, Zeet. So basically,
Or Zeit. We don't know how to say that either.
I don't know how to say it. Yeah, exactly. But for me, like for Rammstein, the quintessential tracks that you remember are like Du Hast, Angel, Firefly. These are all tracks from records, back in the day, their first three records. If I had to pick one of their best records, I would say it was if you look at lists, because I know Aaron and we always disagree. Like Aaron's not a list guy because he said it's very, what's the word, trivial or
I just don't like ranking art.
There's so many layers. Exactly. It could change day to day. But anyway, when you talk about the quintessential record by Rammstein, the record I generally hear most of the time is Mutter, which was their third record. I got to be honest with you, dude. Like now, as I said, I had to do a deep dive, and it's been probably about a month because I remember when I shared it to you on my way to work, and I said, you got to hear this. And you're like, dude, I know Rammstein, but obviously I was new to it.
Yeah, I'm like,
I got to be honest, dude.
Where you been?
I love this record. Like and listen, for me, I look at the band Rammstein, and they kind of remind me of like a modern day Marilyn Manson. Like they're really shocked. They love, like their videos are insane. Like some of their videos are like twisted. But this record, to me, I listened to it track by track, and there's not a bad song on it. And the way that they blended it, there's actually a couple ballads on here. The title track, Zeit, is a ballad. But some of the better tracks are actually on the second half of the record. And for me, when I'm judging a record and how good it is, a lot of times I go by, is the bottom half as good as the top? And in this case, I actually think the bottom half of the record is better than the beginning. So without further ado, I'm going to share a track. I'm going to share the first track, even though I'm saying that the bottom half's better. Let me know what you guys think. This is Rammstein. I don't know if I'm going to say it properly, but it's Armee der Tristan.
I don't think you did.
Right.
so wie ich. Dir laufen Tränen vom Gesicht. Komm zu uns und reih dich ein. Wir wollen zusammen traurig sein. Komm mit. Warum stehst du noch am Rand? Reih dich ein.
Anyway,
And we're back.
that's my pick of the week. Like I said, I know it's not a band that everyone's gonna like, but for me, I'm really digging that industrial sound. And
Yeah, it's industrial metal.
they mix
I've
a
never
lot
been a
of
big
these-
Rammstein guy, but you know, it's solid. It's Rammstein. You know what I mean?
like I said, I think it's a niche band. It's probably either you love it or you hate it. But they do
Exactly.
have a huge following. I will say,
No doubt.
it's $200 to go to a show. Like they're playing at the Link, I believe, this month. Which
Yeah,
is
no, they have a
insane.
huge following. They're very big in Germany. So awesome pick, Jay.
Anyway, that's
Anyway,
my
it was
pick of the week.
yeah, I loved it. It was great to be back. I enjoyed the show.
I
I'm
always
pumped for baseball. And wait, really quick, NBA Finals. Who you got?
NBA Finals, I got the Celtics in 7, and
Me too.
NHL, I got the Tampa Bay Lightning three-peating. Now
Oh, wow.
they still they're still in the Eastern Conference Finals, but they're up 3-2 on the Rangers. I know Steve's probably pissed off.
Yeah, you know what? I think Tampa's going to take it too. I think Tampa's got that. I
It'll
am
be
going
the first
Celtics in 7.
three-peat in professional sports since the Chicago Bulls.
Yeah,
Which
crazy.
just tells you how
It's amazing the
hard
Pats
that
never
is.
did that.
That's what I was saying. Like
Yeah,
I said that the other day. I'm like, I can't believe the Patriots, as much as like their
Yeah.
dynasty was, they
Yeah.
never three-peat. But that just
and
shows
the
you
Yankees.
how hard
It's
it
hard
is
to
in
believe,
sport.
dude. It's hard to believe the Yankees didn't do that.
I know, and I just think that just shows. Like once again, I think it shows how hard that is in any professional sport at any level to do that.
Yeah.
So
Anyway, brother,
okay.
awesome show. Everybody, don't forget to check out our sponsor, La Terrain Watches. Once again, you're going to go to their website, www.laterrain.com. Use our promo code S&M at checkout. The letters S&M as in sports and metal. You're going to save 10%. Tell them Sports and Metal sent you. Also, please check out our website, www.sportsandmetal.com. Check out all our socials at Sports and Metal, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Sports and Metal. Anyway, until next time.
Wait,
What do you got, Jay? You got
real
something?
quick, I wanted to plug my show.
Oh, I forgot.
I know.
Jay's
It's
got
okay.
a great new podcast. Tell him all about it.
So this week I was able to drop. I've been working on this and thinking about it for a long time, but I dropped my very own podcast, and it's centered around mental health and addiction. It's a serious. I do a lot of these sports podcasts. I do obviously Sports and Metal. I have a hockey podcast, but this is like real serious stuff and life-changing stuff. So I dropped my first episode this Tuesday. It's now out on audio. You can get it wherever you get your podcast, Anchor, Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen to your podcast. But I would definitely appreciate it if you listen to it and if you guys could share that out, because basically I'm hoping that this show will be able to help change lives. And if I can help just one person, then I'm doing my job.
And the name of the show is Hate to Feel by Jason Voorhees. Make sure you check it out, the Hate to Feel podcast. Anyway, guys, as always, we love you. Rock on.
Peace out.
And that's our show. Tune in next time for more Sports and Metal with Jason Voorhees and Aaron Savage.
Oh, yeah!
Got something to say? Hit us up at sportsandmetal0423 at yahoo.com or on Twitter at